Hello everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the modern data center and new methods that we have in order to defend the data center better. I'm Bill McGee. I lead the Cloud and Data Center Security Group at Trend Micro. Came to Trend Micro as part of the acquisition of 3rd Brigade, which developed the product Deep Security, which now forms the heart of our Cloud and Data Center Security solution. There's significant change that has been going on within the data center. The enterprise perimeter model of defense that has served us well over the years is now breaking down. We've crossed the point where more than 50% of our server workloads are virtualized. The amount of cloud application adoption within the enterprise is now significant and often much more than what the IT security group and IT understands and controls. And unfortunately, there's no slowdown in the data breaches that have been occurring and the attacks that have been occurring on private data that is owned by enterprises. And this means that there's significant reasons for us to change. Virtualization occurred over a number of years, and finally those changes are starting to catch up to us, and it's really time to take action. In addition to the security challenges, there's also a set of resource issues that have been encountered with the improvements that virtualization has brought to the data center. Legacy security architectures were built without the concept of shared resources. So you had a physical server with dedicated memory and dedicated disk in some cases, dedicated CPU, and the security software built to defend those systems work the same way. Now that we have a virtualized environment where those resources are shared, the security software is often consuming resources at a significant rate. In addition to the computing resource utilization, there's a human resource issue that network security mechanisms like perimeter firewalls, network-based IDS and IPSs often require manual change in order to bring new servers and applications online. So instead of a server being able to come online in minutes, it can often be days, if not weeks, for a new service to be introduced. And therefore, because most data centers did not change their approach to defense, we're now hitting these limits within the data center, and now's the time to take action. The good news is that the infrastructure that has caused this challenge is also what we can use to solve it, that the virtualization environment can be leveraged to deploy security software itself on that same environment and result in a much more automated and much more efficient and much better protected data center. The security mechanisms themselves can stay the same. We have a set of security tools that have served us well in order to defend data center resources, but the approach and deployment of these mechanisms need to change. They need to be much more adaptive to the quickly changing data center, that new servers and applications are coming online, and the security defenses need to be automated in terms of adapting to those new servers that are coming online and potentially moving around the data center, and even in some cases being deployed out in public cloud environments. The security mechanism needs to have a better understanding of the content of the server and the content of the application, meaning what type of operating system is running, what type of software stack is being used to power this application. That will allow us to defend it much better and in much more specific ways. Very significantly, our mindset needs to move from one where the majority of investment in a data center has been in perimeter hardware security defenses to now a software-based approach where software-defined security to defend the virtualization and cloud environment is the primary method that companies need to use to defend data center resources. And lastly, these changes give us an opportunity to look at our security tool set and simplify it. that over the years, many different tools, often point solutions, have been deployed in order to solve a new security problem that has emerged. But now we can take the opportunity to look at that tool set, decide which of those mechanisms continue to be valuable, and ideally simplify that tool set going forward. So there's a number of mechanisms that are used to defend data center security mechanisms. These range from firewalling to intrusion detection and prevention, system and file integrity monitoring to understand whether there's any malicious activity occurring that can be seen on the file system of servers, log inspection to analyze those system events and make sure they get into any event monitoring, security event monitoring system that the organization has, platform and application scanning to probe for vulnerabilities, critical vulnerabilities that may be being introduced in the new applications being brought online, data encryption, particularly of interest when data is being stored out in public cloud, and anti-malware to identify whether malicious software has been installed on any of the servers. These are just a set of controls. Organizations typically have deployed a subset of these controls, and there's also additional controls that can be used to defend the data center. So in addition to the security mechanism, there's how these security mechanisms need to fit in. They need to fit in as optimized a way within the virtualization environment powered by technologies like VMware, Hyper-V, the converged stacks from different platforms, Zen and KVM hypervisors, and as well on the public cloud side of things, there's now significant use of technologies like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, IBM SoftLayer, and VMware vCloud Air. These are all technologies where the method that the security software fits in needs to change, and the more optimized that fits in, the better the protection is going to be for these environments. Now, Trend Micro has a history of innovation in data center protection. We reach back as far as 2009 and 2010 as the first company to have introduced mechanisms like intrusion detection and prevention, and particularly important, the ability to deploy anti-malware software in virtualized environments without requiring any software from the security vendor on the guest virtual machine. We call this the agentless approach to anti-malware, where a dedicated security virtual appliance on each ESX server is all that's needed to protect all the virtual machines on that server, whether they are BDI, whether it's a BDI deployment or a server virtualization deployment. We then extended that capability over the years to include the ability to do file integrity monitoring in an agentless manner, adopting newer versions of the vSphere platform, providing significant optimizations in the area of the scan impact of antivirus and file integrity monitoring on BDI and server environments to minimize performance impact. And in 2014, significant work that we've done to integrate with VMware NSX and VMware vCloud Air. I'm going to go into those in a little bit more detail now. So NSX, or network virtualization, is a capability that VMware has introduced to solve the problem within the data center where the network configuration and the network itself is actually slowing down the ability to virtualize and bring resources on quickly. And so this brings the intelligence of networking out of the switches themselves and moves it into software. So again, another trend where intelligence is moving from hardware to software. One of the initial capabilities that VMware is deploying with NSX is a distributed firewall functionality and what they call microsegmentation that is enabled by this functionality, which again allows you to start to draw boundaries within the data center much closer to those assets that you're trying to protect. But in addition to the benefits of NSX to customers, NSX enables partners like Trend Micro to deliver our functionality differently and better to the data center. So NSX provides a set of network virtualization functions, but then when a vendor like Trend Micro utilizes NSX, we get benefits such as improving the ability to deploy our software. So an example here is that if a virtual machine has been identified as requiring security protection with a service like anti-malware or intrusion detection, NSX will automatically deploy the software from the third-party vendor like Trend Micro to those ESX servers that require protection, so that manual configuration does not necessarily have to be done in advance. If a VM moves to a server that hasn't been configured, NSX will automatically ensure that security protection gets deployed. And this gives the customer much more of a plug-and-play model for security. It also allows Trend Micro to extend the concept of microsegmentation beyond the firewall to network security functions like intrusion detection and prevention, and also system security functions like anti-malware and file integrity monitoring. And lastly, and most importantly, NSX provides the ability to achieve a much higher level of automation and orchestration of the security defenses. For example, if a virtual machine is seen to have malware on it, NSX can move that machine into a different, more constrained security group for further analysis and ensure that any damage that virtual machine could do to other virtual machines in the data center is minimized or eliminated. So just going to go into a little bit more detail of what some of these security mechanisms are. Firstly, NSX enables a set of system security mechanisms. Those include anti-malware, scanning the system for malware that may have been installed by attackers as they're trying to move around the data center and get to the sensitive data within the data center. File integrity monitoring, which can give visibility also into software that has been installed maliciously, or system modifications that have occurred either by accident that leave a system more vulnerable or by an intruder themselves. And also the ability to scan a system to identify which vulnerabilities exist and also put some protection in place. So now I'm going to give a quick demonstration of system security in an NSX context, where we have, this is the deep security product. We have a set of servers in a physical, virtual, and cloud environment. We're going to zoom in on a specific system. Within the NSX environment, we've configured two different security groups. One is the normal operating security group with the security policy, but we've also created a quarantine group that if a virtual machine is attacked, we're going to move it to this quarantine group and limit its ability to be leveraged within the data center for further attack. So we're going to download malware to that machine, and we're going to detect that malware. But in addition to detecting that malware, which you can see here, we've identified that infected file. That system has now been moved to the quarantine group after having been tagged by the Trend Micro Deep Security product. And within that quarantine group, a firewall policy has been deployed to limit the communication of that virtual machine, so that it's now not able to talk to any other systems within the data center, and the impact of that malware has been significantly minimized. Then the additional steps of cleaning or just deleting that virtual machine can be done, and any additional forensic investigation. But in addition to the system security mechanisms, there's also network security functionality within Trend Micro Deep Security. This includes intrusion detection and prevention, so looking at the content of the network streams and identifying any malicious content that's coming in either from the internet or between servers within the data center. And also there's a web reputation capability which helps us identify malicious command and control sites where malware that has made it onto servers is then communicating out for additional instruction. We can identify that communication and restrict it. The significant benefit of a mechanism like intrusion detection and prevention is that this can protect the vulnerability that exists within the data center prior to it being patched. Despite our best efforts with patching, it still takes time to introduce new patches into a data center environment. And that when a new vulnerability is disclosed, customers often prefer to be able to take the time to verify the patch, verify that it doesn't have any unintended consequences. And that deploying an intrusion detection or prevention rule can virtually patch this vulnerability while the time is occurring in order to test the patch. So we can see in this diagram a patch becomes available for a vulnerability that Trend Micro has delivered protection for it, and that then the data center can take the additional days or weeks in some cases needed to verify that patch before deploying the patch. Now I'm going to provide a demonstration of that in the context of the Heartbleed vulnerability that occurred earlier in 2014. So this is a website that unfortunately is vulnerable to the Heartbleed vulnerability. And we're going to show here with the Metasploit attack tool the ability to attack this website and retrieve sensitive data off the website. So that text that you see that we've highlighted is actually sensitive data that has been leaked out due to this system being vulnerable to the Heartbleed vulnerability. Now you're going to show that with one click in the intrusion detection and prevention functionality within Deep Security, that when the intrusion prevention rule that protects this vulnerability is deployed, that system is no longer vulnerable to attack, even though it has the vulnerability. So here we've just run the same attack again, and no sensitive information has been able to be retrieved. We'll also notice that this, the fact that this attack has occurred is indicated within the events within Trend Micro Deep Security. And also this scenario could result in the virtual machine being tagged as having been received an attack, moved to a quarantine group as well, and again remediated, potentially by having the vulnerability patched. In addition to the improvements in being able to defend the data center, there are some methods that have come along that help us optimize the deployment of security software and minimize the resources that it utilizes. And that's primarily been through work that VMware has done within their hypervisor platform. And what this work has resulted in is that traditionally security software had to be deployed to each virtual machine within a data center. But with VMware vShield, this software is all centralized within a single security virtual appliance on each ESX host. That means there's a significant reduction, a significant simplification and reduction in resource use. This includes reducing the amount of and number of security components that need to be managed. That in a server environment, you'll have ratios of 8, 10, or 15 servers per ESX host. Then there's only one security set of security software to monitor, so about a 10-to-1 improvement. In the case of VDI, there are often 50, 100, or more non-persistent images for VDI on a single ESX host. So in that case, you're getting almost 2 orders of magnitude of less security components to manage. There's a reduction in the amount of network activity that the both software and pattern updates that are typically required to be sent to security software only have to be sent to one component on each ESX host. The speed and the CPU impact of scanning is reduced because the centralization of this knowledge on a security virtual appliance also allows a cache to be put in place so that when that same file is encountered on a second virtual machine that was already scanned on another virtual machine on that host, it doesn't need to be scanned again. So if you picture two users logging into a BDI environment in the morning, that second virtual machine doesn't need nearly as much of its content scanned as the first one. Also, there's a significant reduction in the amount of memory that's utilized. That antivirus patterns are typically quite large, in the size of hundreds of megabytes, and spread across each virtual machine. There's a significant duplication and a significant use of memory in the ESX server. When it's centralized on one virtual appliance, then you only have that impact once for each ESX host. And then lastly, and most significantly, is the reduction in impact on I/O. That when pattern updates occur with security software, that pattern, even if it is a small update, typically the entire pattern is written to disk and read from disk by the security software. Because again, that security software was not built with the concept of virtualization and shared resource in mind. In this case, each pattern update only results in one write to storage, dramatically reducing the impact on I/O and improving the performance of the storage environment. In addition to the work that has occurred with NSX and with vShield within the enterprise, there's also work we've done with VMware in the area of their vCloud Air public cloud system that they've deployed. That Trend Micro announced support for this environment earlier this year and allows an organization to use the same security software that they use to protect their data center to also protect their public cloud environment. This means that the work that you've done, the investment you've made both in software but also in the security policies that you've defined within your data center are reusable. A workload that exists within the data center and protected in one way, that same workload being deployed in the vCloud Air environment can be protected with the same security policy with no additional effort. And therefore, there's significant return on investment that an organization gets investing in security software that can span across their data center environment and their cloud environment and use one system for that. Also, as new virtual machines, by support of the vCloud APIs, as new virtual machines appear within the public cloud, those new virtual machines can be protected automatically with the appropriate security protection. And what we see organizations achieving is that security is sometimes a concern when moving workloads out into the public cloud. What we're now seeing is by having software that can be used to protect both the virtualized and cloud environment, that customers are achieving the same and sometimes they feel better levels of security out in that public cloud because of the automation that is available and the ability to ensure that the security software and the appropriate security protection is deployed for all resources that exist in the public cloud. Lastly, in addition to the security defense, the improvements in the ability to deploy our security defenses, there's also the goal of helping make security more visible to those people who are managing and monitoring the data center. And what we've done recently is, in addition to the user interface and the API that is available from the Trend Micro Deep Security product, we've also created a plugin for the vCenter Operations Manager, which gives the operations team some insight into what has been deployed and what is occurring from a security protection. So this will provide status, whether machines are protection. It'll provide visibility into potentially malicious activity and give them an overall health indicator of their security defenses within the vCenter Operations Manager. So the status of each of these systems is visible, and any attack activity that is occurring, whether that's being detected by mechanisms like anti-malware or file integrity monitoring, or network security attacks that are being detected by intrusion detection and prevention, those are also visible within vCenter Operations Manager. This can give insight that it could explain a reason why operations issues are being seen on certain virtual machines, and it may also cause the operations team to move this virtual machine or the set of virtual machines that are having these types of issues into different groups and have their security teams investigate it further. So in summary, Trend Micro has done a lot of work over the last 5 years integrating our security differently and better into VMware environments. VMware has done a lot of work to enable third-party vendors like Trend Micro, and Trend Micro has taken full advantage of those capabilities, including the NSX, the ability to more automatically deploy our technology within the data center, on vSphere 5.1 and 5.5 systems, the vShield capabilities enabling agentless protection, now providing a plugin for vCenter Operations Manager to give better visibility of the security mechanisms to the operations team. We've always supported the ability for vMotion for the security protection to follow the virtual machine and ensure continuous protection. And then most recently, the ability to support the vCloud APIs, both when vCloud was used within a data center and also now with the public vCloud Air service, the ability for us to protect virtual machines and servers out in vCloud environment. In summary, Trend Micro Deep Security is a product that provides a rich set of security mechanisms and can protect physical, virtualized, private cloud, and now public cloud environments. These can all be centrally controlled from one management system, a common security policy, whether a workload or independent of the method that the workload is running it. The key message is that in order to defend our data center better, we need to utilize the mechanisms themselves that the data center provides, that the virtualized environments and the automation of the virtualization software, and similarly in the cloud environment, can actually be the tool that also helps secure these environments better. That if the security can be more adaptive, have more insight into the content of the workload, change our mindset from a software mindset from a hardware mindset to a software mindset, and also optimize the tool set, it can result in a reduction in the amount of effort to provision and monitor the security tools, and at least limit the impact on the security teams of the ever-increasing number of servers and applications being deployed. And lastly, the ability to run the security fabric more efficiently within the data center. So I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you for connecting to this webinar, and goodbye.